Speaking Human.
Today on Speaking Human, we sound off on the current state of old school social media and loop our thoughts on a pair of modern social apps looking to make some noise.
Speaking Human.
Welcome to Speaking Human, where we simplify the world of marketing for humans. I'm Shad Conley, and with me is my co-host, Patrick Jebber. And I don't know about you, Patrick, but I can't get enough TikTok challenges, which is why I'm holding this bottle of soy sauce right now.
Well, first of all, I know you, Shad, and you wouldn't dare do that soy sauce challenge, mainly because that's just too much salt in your diet. There's a lot of salt in soy sauce, you know that.
That's true. I don't want all that salt, no matter where it's coming through.
You're like, wow, I'm tasting salt in my mouth. Is that salty? I thought I read somewhere, though, that is totally fake.
I would definitely think so. It sounds ridiculous, and it doesn't sound like science at all.
If you don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, so I saw this TikTok talking about testicles having taste buds, so I decided to Google it, and it's true. So, just went and got some soy sauce, and we're gonna do this little science experiment together. And don't be nasty in the comments. This is the human anatomy. Oh my God! I can taste the salt! That's ridiculous.
It's a little bizarre, a little strange.
The one great thing is, you look at some of this stuff on, especially TikTok, but all social media and even all the internet itself, it's just this great reminder of what it really is, what social media is, what the internet is. It's just kind of a place where we can all be weird together. Just being like, hey man, I'm into doing this weird thing. You want to do it with me? And everybody's like, yes.
It's just like hanging out with your friends. And you would be doing that with your friends, right? Sitting around in college or whatever, and you're like, hey, I bet you can't do this. And then the other person says, I bet you I can. And suddenly, there's a challenge.
It's the world getting weird together. Sometimes I think, we're a little bit older. We're not super elderly or anything. Not super elderly. Just regular elderly. Sometimes I think if we grew up with social media, I wonder, would my life be just completely different? Would I be a totally different person now if social media had existed from the moment I was born on? Would I not even be me? You ever think about that?
Oh, that's a really profound question because it's changing your environment, right? That's sort of nurture versus nature. Is it your environment, or are you just naturally that person and you would always be that person regardless of what your environment was?
Yeah. So it's like, would I, if I was exposed to some of these things or I had some of these resources available, would something have clicked differently in my brain at some point? I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
Would you be just sitting around doing a bunch of soy sauce challenges is what you're saying?
Yeah, just like dipping different parts of my body in soy sauce all day. My parents are like, what are you doing? Weird social experiments. In case you, haven't got the hint by now, well, maybe you haven't because it's pretty vague. For now, today we're talking about the ever-expanding and changing social media landscape. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the social newcomers on the block, but first, we want to talk a little bit about the old guys, the classics, as I like to call them. What's going on with some of the old timers that have been around since social media began in the world. So, Patrick, I think a good place to start for that is by talking about your personal social media Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore, for those of you who don't know, it is a mountain that has the faces, of the presidents carved into it. So if you were picking your 4 social networks that would go on your personal social media Mount Rushmore, all time, from the beginning of social media to now, you get to pick 4, put them on there. You're going to say, when we're writing the history of social media from, then to now, however you want to weigh them, which ones would they be, Patrick?
You got to pick the big ones, right? As opposed to the ones that you use every day. Obviously got to put Facebook on there.
Without a doubt, Facebook gets a spot. The first, the biggest,
And I do separate that and think it should be separated, even though Facebook owns it. I think Instagram is, for certain, top 4, mainly because people who use Instagram don't always use Facebook and vice versa, or some people like one or the other, or they like both for different reasons. So Instagram is on that list for me.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm giving Instagram a slot too. I think they're definitely in there, unquestioned.
So then beyond that, Twitter would be on there for sure.
I think for the size, for the time it's been around, and just mostly for the influence Twitter has. I mean, you think about the president on Twitter.
Yeah, I try not to think about the president on Twitter, just FYI.
I think most of us feel a similar way. But the way Twitter is used and the way Twitter is in the conversation all the time within like news and media and everything like that, I think Twitter just has a big impact. I think it needs to be there. And then, Snapchat is the other one I would put in that conversation. That's probably what I would stick in that 4th slot just because of its number of users. And the thing I thought about was Snapchat's kind of the one that made filters happen. You know what I mean? Which was kind of a big thing. So that was a big piece of influence there.
Yeah, I get that. But Snapchat, I sort of hesitated with Snapchat because it hasn't been around that long, right?
I mean, it has and it hasn't. It goes back to like 2011. It didn't get hot till like 2014 or so. But you're talking about social media. Facebook goes back 2004. Didn't get hot till like 2008. So we're talking about recent history, even though some of this stuff seems like it goes back a little longer than that. I think this is a good second part of our conversation here where talking about social media in general, I think it just seems like not a lot's been happening after so much was happening for like, the first 5 to 10 years of social media. These past few years have just been a little quiet, a little sleepy. It's gotten a little stagnant. I feel like in the beginning, there were more new social media sites popping up all the time. Everybody was trying to make a name and compete and jump into these big leagues with the Facebooks and the Twitters. All the excitement that was initially there and innovation that was initially there just burned off a little bit. And now everybody's just doing their thing. Yeah. Maybe that's not a fair picture of what's actually happening, but that's kind of a little bit of a take I actually have. Would you agree with that assessment at all?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple things happening there, right? Which is one, if a small social site comes out to sort of fill a niche, the big players buy it or they'll integrate it into their own ecosystem and then makes the other one not relevant because who's going to do that when, you've got a billion users on whatever social channel, just pick one. So there's a little bit of that. And then the other part is it's become such a way of life now that people are just used to it. I wouldn't say that it's stagnant necessarily. Social media, I think, is constantly evolving. It's just slowly moving, right? It's become such a big beast that it can't be small and nimble and agile anymore. It's like, we integrated filters. That's the new thing. Everybody's going to do filters now. And now we've got face filters. And you're going to be excited for it for about a minute. And then it'll go into the next thing. And it's just slowly evolving into other things. And I don't mean it evolving in a good way, like it's becoming better, but it's just trying to keep fresh so that people stay interested in them. You know what I mean? Would you agree with that or?
No, that's a good way of positioning it and a good way of thinking about it is it's almost like a business or a startup. You have those early days where things are really exciting. You can kind of do whatever you want because you're in that position. And then you grow and you become big and things just move a little more slowly. You have a big customer base you have to worry about. And, it just becomes less fresh, less exciting over time. I think that's probably just where we're at. Do you think users to these sites, are they still engaged or are they starting to check out? There might still be billions of Facebook users, but are they still all that interested or are they just like scrolling through by routine every day?
Big broad strokes, you'll probably hear the same thing on different social trend sites and stuff. But I was thinking back to just my own personal circle and I hear people say this all the time. Oh yeah, I don't really get on there that much anymore. Like I might hop on once or twice a week or a month just to see what's going on with so-and-so or some of my close friends, but I don't really get on there like I used to. And I think that's the general consensus. And I'm speaking mostly to Facebook at this point, but I think that's in general.
Yeah, and I just don't know that there's more room to go, I guess, with that site. I think the same thing about Twitter. Like, I love Twitter. I get real joy out of like following live events on there and other stuff, but I think it's kind of hit the wall. And it just makes things, for us who have followed social since the beginning and, covered it for the site and everything, it just seems like a time where it's just, after all that excitement, it's like the morning after the party. Oh, I guess the party's kind of over a little bit. I will say one site that keeps kind of evolving and has kept itself pretty relevant as it's aged and just seems to be keeping up with generations as it goes. Instagram. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, maybe it's because of the simplicity of Instagram. They don't confound things. People are visual, and it stayed pretty true to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's fairly easy, and you can go in there and not get overwhelmed by the content you don't want. But we've seen this, the University of Akron, where we've worked with students there. And, we had them write articles about social media. And what would you say, 75% of them chose to focus on Instagram as their topic? That to me was like hugely telling. I was like the first, surprised at how many of them, that was their area, that was their main social network that they were into.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think why people pick specific platforms, because everybody's a little different, right? Everybody's going to choose different platforms, maybe based on their age or the people who they are trying to connect with, what social channel they're on.
That's why I spend most of my time on Jerry, the social network for geriatric people.
That's a great idea. Hey, you on Jerry? Yeah, I'm on Jerry.
I've been on Jerry for years.
Okay.
I think that's all we got on the social classics.
Like I said, we can keep checking back in every couple years, and it's going to be a different answer, right? Because social media is evolving, or changing, I should say. Evolving is sort of like a very positive way to look at it. That's how I say, are they evolving? Are they getting better? Evolution sort of implies that it's getting better. Maybe changing is the right word for it.
Yeah. It's always doing something, whether fast or slow, in big waves or small waves, there's always something going on with social. So in a minute, we'll take a spin with some of the new kids on the social block. But first, let's get a quick word from our sponsor.
Today's sponsor is Farmers Insurance. Insurance can be confusing, overwhelming, and time-consuming. At Hire Insurance Agency, we remove the guesswork and hassle, helping you protect what matters most. We offer a wide range of auto, home, business, and life insurance policies to help you meet your specific needs. Call 844-543-3463 or visit hireinsurance.com. That's HYRE insurance.com for more information.
All right, Chad. So this part of our discussion, part 2, we have titled Young Bucks, because we're going to be talking a little bit about the new social channels, or newish social channels, that have graced the interwebs of the world with their presence. Namely, the very first on our list, TikTok.
It's the big one.
Not to be confused with Kesha's TikTok song from, I believe, 2009-ish?
That was a big one. It was a big hit.
It was a big hit. But TikTok, it's the thing everyone's talking about, whether it's influencers on TikTok or the newest filters on TikTok or what's the newest remix on TikTok. It's usually feature focused, right?
Yeah, it's definitely building some buzz. We talked about, or I talked about, I should say. I threw out the word stagnant when talking about social media. And then you have something like TikTok, which kind of blows that out of the water a little bit, because in the past couple of years, it's just really been making some kind of noise in the social space. It's been around since 2016, technically, where that was when it launched in China, but really 2018, 2019 in particular is when it really got popular in the US. Let me give you some quick TikTok stats, Patrick. 800 million users worldwide. Now, a big percentage of those are outside of the US. 57% they say, of the user base is actually in China. So that's where the majority is. 1.5 billion downloads of the TikTok app. And so in the US, it grew from 18 million US users of TikTok in 2018 to 37 million users in 2019. So that's more than double in 1 year. So you can see what a jump that was. And it's expected to be around 45 million in 2020. So it's still growing. It's not quite growing at that like double rate that it grew at last year. But you can tell it just how popular it became within the past couple of years.
Yeah, I will say, just one little tiny tidbit of information that we left out from that was musically was essentially very similar, if not exactly the same. And then they did the whole rebranding and became TikTok, and then it just like blew up from there. I think musically was actually blowing up when they made that change. And there was a little bit of confusion, I think, brand confusion at the very beginning of that change.
And in case you don't know, the whole idea behind the app is it allows users to create 15-second videos, soundtracked by music if you want, and you can also kind of add special effects to them. There's some editing tools involved there too that people then can, like, share, comment on. But that's the simple idea behind it. Anything we're leaving out there?
TikTok, technically, you could do 60 seconds. It's 15 seconds, but then you could switch it to 60 seconds in some cases. But it is a rabbit hole in which you can get definitely sucked into. It's a lot of weird, crazy content on TikTok.
I mean, doesn't that apply to the internet, every social network, more or less?
Do I just sound like an old man?
Well, I'm trying to think, is it worse on TikTok than anywhere else? You know what I mean? Maybe. It feels like it a little bit with some of these challenges.
Yeah, you're right. TikTok isn't unlike any other social media platform. You're right. But I mean, it's definitely a rabbit hole. To me, it's a lot like Instagram is too, where you scroll through a feed and sometimes it's enlightening to see, I didn't know this was a thing, right? It keeps me engaged maybe with the younger crowd of people as an older person. I can't believe I have to say that I'm this like older generation now. How do I connect with the young people?
How do I know what the youth is doing?
What do you mean it's not MTV TRL? People are like, what is that? Total Request Live, where they play music videos with Carson Daly. Isn't that guy old and does news programs now?
That was 20 years ago. That's like somebody talking about American Bandstand when we were kids.
Some kids going, what? They had music videos back then? What is a music video anyway? It's TikTok. It is TikTok. Maybe that's what I'm missing.
It's TikTok, but 3 minutes and 30 seconds longer, and with a little more sense of art.
Well, I don't know. I mean, somebody older might have said that about music videos back then, right? When we were younger. Old people were probably like, what is this nonsense?
No, that's true. Everybody was like, this is trash.
Now you're on TikTok, and these things are like crazy music videos.
That is probably an absolutely great comparison. It's just this thing has transformed over time into this thing.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't see it, but that is a really good comparison. You just blew my mind.
So what do you think? We talk about the draw, I guess, a little bit.
I'll tell you what's drawing people to it. I think one of the things you've talked about, the kind of rabbit hole of it, I put it as it also has what I would call deep viral pockets. Even when this lip syncing video thing that is what this whole platform is based on, even when that's worn out its novelty, there's always something new on this site to find that can be viral. I feel like it can go on forever. It's basically created a viral machine. It's isolated the elements of other social media sites that regularly create viral things and just made that into one entire social site. So I feel like that can go on forever. The other things are, I just think it's the simplicity. We talked about that with Instagram. It's not bogged down in a bunch of capabilities or anything like that. It's just easy for anyone to pick up, start scrolling. And the main thing is, it's just a good hang, man. Unlike, Facebook or Twitter, which can be a painful slog to kind of scroll through depending on what you're looking at. TikTok seems, it's just about the fun, right? It's light, it's airy, it's disposable, it's in the moment. That's actually pretty refreshing in the time we're living in right now, where you can just, watch these things. They're 15 seconds long and then they're gone. I think people appreciate a good hang at the moment with their social, you know what I mean? When they're tired of a lot of this other junk that's kind of been bogging them down.
Yeah. Would you say that it's a good hang, meaning that it's sort of mindless, that it's not something that makes you think too deep? How would you categorize that?
I mean, probably, but I'd also just say it's more of a fun, positive vibe as opposed to, we've got some people negative ranting over here. We've got pictures and memes over here. We have all this different combined stuff forced into your mind at one time. This is all kind of things that are a piece with one another, more or less, from what I've seen anyway.
And it's more entertainment in its purest form.
Yeah, energetic and entertaining, I would call it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would agree with that. I mean, and to me, this is one of the bigger players of the time anyway. I know that it has its issues. I know that people have issues with it. Being that it's a Chinese company, I know in the US, that's a big deal. Like, I was just reading, and again, take this for what it is. The Reddit CEO and co-founder, Steve Huffman, it was covered on TechCrunch about how he said, and I quote, he said, "Maybe I'm going to regret this, but I can't even get to that level of thinking with them," Huffman said, "because I look at that app as so fundamentally parasitic that it's always listening. The fingerprinting technology they use is truly terrifying, and I could not bring myself to install an app like that on my phone." Regardless how you feel about him and his company, because I know that that's a huge thing too with people, being a co-founder of Reddit. But this is a common topic that's been presenting itself lately with apps and social media that's tracking users. And being that I think TikTok started off, there was a big younger user base that has become an everlasting conversation about TikTok. And so if they can outlast that, if it can prove it is non-malignant to the world, I think that, it can have a shot at cracking the social big leagues.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has a shot here of cracking that Mount Rushmore. Things have to roll its way. It has to get past this gimmick point where it's at now. But I think it has some good things going for it. One is where its user base is at now. Another is that they're really pushing it. But I think the key thing is this music integration that it has going with it. And I think if they can use that to take it to the next level, make it a key part of it and even get artists involved in it. But maybe it is. Maybe it's like the next version of MTV and they have like another arm where we're breaking new artists through these TikTok videos and stuff like that. And that's just record companies want to be involved in that. People who are making music want to be involved in that. And you just create this whole economy or market around that. I think that could be something to it too. But I think it's definitely got a shot if they can evolve it the right way.
Yeah, so that leads me to my last question about TikTok, and I wanted to kind of get your opinion on this. I don't know what that looks like from a royalty and fee standpoint. Do they pay the music industry like Pandora does or Spotify, where they pay them a percentage? Because users are posting these things and this music is being sampled to make these videos, these short videos. How does the music industry look at that? I feel like you see it all the time with YouTube, for example. I mean, there's copyright protection. So how do they handle that?
I don't get that either. You know how YouTube is. YouTube cracks down on any sort of use of music at all that they find in videos. So I don't know how they can get away with it and even make it like a key part of their platform, right?
Yeah, that part of it has been foggy to me, like how they've worked out some sort of agreement to not have it be an issue. But I feel like eventually that's going to become an issue if it hasn't already, if they haven't worked that out.
Yeah, you would think so. And that to me is why some sort of partnership would make sense. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it's sliding under the radar right now or what the deal they have in place is, but there must be something because you haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah. So the next on our list of new upcoming social media,
hot young whippersnappers,
the babies, if you will, is Byte. And so Byte, if you haven't heard, is the answer to all of the people who miss Vine. You were one of those people, right, Shad?
I was definitely one of those people. I was a big fan of Vine. That was one of my, before Vine went under, Vine famously, we talked earlier in the show about some of the bigger social networks buying up and swallowing the smaller ones. Famously, Vine was this pretty cool social network from, I don't know when it came out, early in the 2010s, right? Bought up by Twitter, and then Twitter shut it down, I think in 2016. To the surprise and fury of many. But now one of the creators of Vine, who's promised he was going to bring it back in some form, has come back with Byte, which is in many ways just like Vine. So they actually just launched Byte in January of 2020, so it's pretty new. And very similar, looping videos, 6 seconds long is what you can create on Byte. And people use this to make all sorts of interesting, funny, strange, wild little snippets that you can watch in exactly 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's a very, very short time frame. That is the hardest thing that it has going for it, and also the best thing that it has going for it. We've talked about the thing that we always loved about Vine was that's a really short amount of time, which is kind of the beauty of it, right? Mm-hmm. That you have to basically boil your idea down, your concept, whatever that is that you're creating, to 6 seconds. And that is not an easy task. And it makes you refine your idea while you're creating something and figure out, is this piece really important? Can I throw it away? And it's very much like what we do as a profession, right? When we are creating something for companies, big or small, what is important in this? What is necessary? Strip away all the things that are unnecessary and get to the heart of that message. And that's the beauty of it. The drawback, obviously, is that's 6 seconds, and it's very hard for people to come to grips with that. That's a little bit of the hurdle, I think. Will always be a little bit of the hurdle is like, I can't do anything in 6 seconds. I can't tie my shoes in 6 seconds. I can't put on my pants in 6 seconds. How do you expect me to make a video that means something in 6 seconds, right?
Yeah. The TikTok, 15 seconds, that's actually a decent amount of time. 6 seconds is a very small box. You can't do a whole lot in there. You're right. Yeah. So you really have to boil it down. And then the other thing is with that 6 seconds, the looping, you really want to make the looping work. So that's kind of like an art form within itself to do that 6 seconds and then make it like loop back on itself so that it can play and people can watch it over and over again. It's really its own thing. And that's what makes it so interesting to me, I think. So what's the draw here? I think one of the key draws is obviously Vine. It was a small audience. It never grew to be super big because of these limitations, but I think the people who liked it really liked it. Some brands, really got into it and did some really creative and interesting work on there. So they say Byte first week had like 1.5 million downloads, which is pretty good for week one. The other thing obviously is just the creativity of it. And this is the thing I love about Byte is the things people think to do with the looping effect and just how people use that 6 seconds, I think is just so clever. Some of them, there's still your throwaway ones, but some of them are just, I don't know, really interesting. And I will say, even on both TikTok and Byte, amongst the funny and the ridiculous and the very stupid, which there's probably more stupid on TikTok, you'll find some really beautiful and creative uses of these mediums. You do. Every once in a while, even scrolling through TikTok, I saw a few that popped out on me where I'm like, all right, somebody's using this to try to make like little films. Something totally different than what else is going on here. And with Byte, you see that all the time. Like there's some people on there who are trying to do some really interesting things. That's why I could sit there and like scroll through it for like hours because just some of the stuff, when it pops out to you, that's actually pretty amazing that somebody did that in 6 seconds. And that's why also the brevity of it, you can watch so much in a short period of time, you can take in so much content, is another one of the key draws, I think, for me.
I know that in the coming days, they're apparently going to pay creators at some point to create new things on Byte. So that's also a draw for it initially, is going to be this idea of seeing new original content from these people who can make really good Bytes. These 6 second clips of just ingenuity and creativity. So would you say just generally, though, knowing what you know right now, not necessarily where you hope it will be, but do you think it's going to be something that can make a crack into the big leagues at some point?
No. You?
It depends, I guess, on what Byte does to sort of innovate and to evolve the platform, because people get bored so easily. You look back at Twitter, right? What was it, 140 characters? And then they doubled it to try to get more people to be more comfortable with the amount of space that they could communicate whatever it was that they were communicating. So, who knows? Maybe Byte will elaborate or give people more flexibility or whatever that is. I definitely think it has potential. Don't know if it'll crack the staples, the Mount Rushmore, if you will.
And that's okay. I think the confines are just a little too tight, but I think that's okay. I think it can exist as what it is and be like fairly popular for what it is and have this band of loyalists who really like it and are doing really cool things with it. And it still makes an imprint without, becoming a Rushmore site necessarily, I think it can have like a Twitter type influence on a smaller scale.
Kind of like what we were saying with Instagram, right? Which is, it is what it is. It does not try to be something else.
Yeah. I just don't think it's ever going to hit that user level. You know what I mean? I think it's going to go to a certain point and kind of top out.
I agree with that. But it's nice to see just in 2020, January, the beginning of the year, it's nice to see that there are still new channels like this coming up. Even if it is based on something old, I think, it's interesting to see where it goes from here and can it be successful and break through the clutter, give people something new and interesting, an outlet to create.
Yeah. And I think it definitely accomplishes that and it adds something, and I'm happy to have it back. Personally, I think a problem with a lot of these fails social sites was everybody was trying, we have to be like Facebook or we have to have like 1 billion users. I don't see what's wrong with having slightly smaller ambitions, doing something more unique and being like, well, what if we're just the site that is for this specific set of people and has maybe 100 million users, If you kind of create around those parameters where you're just looking to accomplish something smaller, I think that's okay. You know what I mean? As long as you're accomplishing something and appealing to a specific group, I think that to me would be the goal. That's what I would think the new wave of social sites should try to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely.
I think we've covered a lot of social media, past and present, and I think it's time to jump into the future.
Yeah, so on that note, everyone, let's get our final nugget or nuggets of human wisdom.
Human wisdom.
So for today's human wisdom, we're each going to share an idea for a new or improved social network and tell you why we think our network would catch on. So Patrick, do you want to go first with this one? I think this is going to be pretty good.
Yeah. So my new social network is going to be called Fall.
Okay.
And here's the idea, Shad. It's a video sharing app. So, okay, put that aside that there are a lot of those out there. It's going to allow users to record or upload short clips of them falling. Okay? This app is hyper-focused on just one aspect, people or things falling. So it could be a building falling, it could be a feather falling, it could be a person falling, they're riding a skateboard and they fall off of it. People love seeing people fall. Like, have you ever seen somebody trip and you see them fall and you like laugh, or like they're on a treadmill and they fall and you go, oh my gosh. I mean, obviously you don't want that person to be hurt. I think somewhere in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I hope that person didn't get hurt doing that. And maybe some people don't care, but that's the idea. Just basically the whole social platform is just gonna be falling.
But I like it. I think it's really good. It's hyper-focused. It has a very specific idea. And what we were just talking about, what's wrong with creating a small and very specific social network? And that's what you have done.
And that was my thought, was why can't it just be something specific, hyper-focused on whatever it is? Allow people to just sort of have fun with that one thing and then see where it goes from there. Maybe it grows beyond that.
And what if you could have like, a special day or something where you're like, for one day only, fall becomes rise.
Oh, yeah. See, I love that too. I love the idea. And you got a whole season. How do you promote this during autumn, right? Fall season, maybe that's your basketball season, right? But for this social platform, it's like maybe you got tournaments and you've got championships, things like that, where you're doing that all through the autumn months.
Oh, I like that. Vote now. You could pick like your top 10 falls and be like, vote for your favorite fall or best fall of the century.
Most epic fall. Yes.
That's a good one.
I like it. So that's my idea. It's pretty simple in its concept. Probably would be pretty simple in its execution as well. But, So what's your idea? What would be your new social network?
Like you, I went kind of the same route, very simple and very focused. So my idea is once, a social network where you can only post once a day. I thought about once a week or once a month and thought that might not be enough to keep people engaged, but only once a day. The concept being is that on this network, the very act of posting becomes a valuable commodity. It also promotes equality and keeps streams from getting dominated by repeat posters or brands. So you only get one shot. You got to make it count. I'll throw out some additional ideas here and see what you think of these. Maybe you only get one post, one share, one like.
Yes. See, because then you have to force yourself into thinking, is it worth it? And you'd have to use it wisely. So I like that.
That's true. And so here's another thing. I was thinking maybe it could be like there's a few different post types like text, image, video. So maybe you'd get to pick, or maybe it's a random roulette wheel or you just push a button and it selects which one you get. Okay? And then it becomes kind of like a game. So it could be like, ooh, I got the more rare and valuable one today.
I do. I like that a lot. I mean, anytime you can sort of gamify that idea of being involved and engaged with other people's stuff, I think keeps people excited. I like that. That's a good one. It's tough. It's tough coming up with a new social network.
Yeah, and here we have 2. And, well, 3 if you count Jerry.
Yeah. Jerry's, that's a classic right
Jerry's
there.
already up and running.
That's literally an oldie but goodie. Maybe that's the tagline. Looking for your oldies but goodies? Come to Jerry.
Well, there's got to be like, an actual Jerry.
Are you going to spell Jerry or Gerry?
Great question.
Because geriatric is spelled with a G.
I know, but yeah, Jerry, guy, yeah, it's tough. Tough call.
Yeah. Well, we covered a lot of things.
Some would say too many.
Too many things. So that's it for today's episode, everyone. You can find current and past episodes of the podcast on speakinghuman.com. While you're there, check out The Buzz. We think you'll like it. Every week, there's something new for your eyes, your ears.
Find the word The Buzz, click on it. We'll be back in a couple ticks of the talk with another episode of Speaking Human. Catch you then, humans.
Speaking human.
Oh my God!